Hello, today we're going to be making these little Easter bunnies. They're really small, so it doesn't take long to make these up really quick. And they fit nicely into these plastic eggs, which you can put in an Easter basket or would be great for an Easter egg hunt. And so that's what we're going to jump into right away. Let's start looking at all the materials we need. So our first material is this white yarn. It's really soft yarn. I think this came from Hobby Lobby, and it's just plain white yarn, but you could use any color yarn and make a whole variety of colors with these bunnies. Polyfill, but you can definitely use extra leftover scraps of yarn. Because of the size of these bunnies, it won't take much to stuff them at all. Some scrap yarn, whatever color you would like to use for the nose, and then I just put a little V in with the yarn that kind of looks like a heart, and so whichever color you would like for the nose and the heart, just a little bit of scrap yarn for that. A plastic Easter egg. The size that I found that's working really well for this bunny is one that's about 3.5 inches long and just a little over 2 inches wide. The remaining items are just scissors, a 3.25 millimeter crochet hook, safety eyes if you want to use safety eyes, or you can just use felt or embroider the eyes on, a stitch marker, and a yarn needle. One last thing is, if this is something you would want to do, I'll show at the end of the video how to use this makeup I got from the Dollar Tree. And I didn't do it on this bunny, but I will show how to put a little bit of blush and just a little bit of coloring under the ears if you want to add a little more color to your bunny. So we've got our materials. Let's get started with making a magic ring. And I'll show you how I make the magic ring. So we're going to lay our yarn over our middle finger and index finger. We're going to bring the yarn around and cross it over. We're going to bring it around and then just hold it securely with our ring finger. We'll take our crochet hook and slide it under that first yarn, bring it around, scoop up everything underneath, slide it back up, grab this second yarn, and then just pull it through. And now we've got our magic ring or loop, and then just kind of straighten out the little tail. And then you can just kind of pull the main yarn to get it a little tighter. And that's how we make our magic ring. So let's go ahead and single crochet 4 into the magic ring. So we got 1, 2, 3, and 4. Now we're going to pull our tail to close it up, but not really tight. That way it makes it so it's not too hard to get into that first stitch. And after the second round, we can always pull the tail tighter to close in that gap. So that's our first row, which is 4 single crochet into the magic ring. Row 2 is going to be increasing in each of the 4 stitches. So how we'll do that is we will just single crochet 2 in each of our 4 single crochets from our first row. So there's 2, 4, 6, and then 8. We'll be completing our second row. And what we'll do is we'll just pull this tail a little tighter, and there we go. We've got round 2 out of a total of 15 rounds. And these will go pretty quick because the most stitches that go into any of these rounds are 16. So it won't take us long to get the body of this little bunny all set. We are on to round 3, where we're going to increase from 8 to 12 stitches. And our pattern for the increase will be to single crochet 2 into our first stitch and 1 into the next stitch. And our pattern one more time is crochet 2 into the first stitch and 1 into the second. And we'll go all the way around, which will give us a total of 12 single crochets in round 3. Okay, here's our last increase. And I did put in my stitch marker for this one, just so I can kind of keep track. Sometimes I can just, I'm counting in my head, and then the next thing I know, I have no idea where I am. So we've got our round 3 completed. We're up to 12 single crochet, and then we're going to do one more increase up to 16 single crochet. We're on round 4, and we're going to increase from 12 to 16. And to do that, our pattern is going to be to single crochet 2 into the first stitch, and then 1 single crochet into the next 2 stitches. So we've got 2, and then 1 and 1. And that's the pattern. We'll keep going across the end of this row, and then while I'm doing that, I'm just going to start crocheting on top of this tail just to kind of get it secured. So that's 2, 1, 1, and the last increase, 2, oh goodness, there we go, and then 1, pop my stitch marker out, and 1. And that is all of our increases. And so we're going to be working next on rows 5 through 11, and they're really easy because we're just going to single crochet 1 in each stitch all the way around for those 7 rows. So we're going to work together on round 5, and I'll work that one with you, and then once we get done with round 5, which is just single crocheting 1 in each stitch, then I will have you complete rows 6 through 11, and then we can meet back, and I'll show you how to continue on with the pattern. But this is a really good time if you got some music or a video to put on, although it won't take too long because, like I said, there are only 16 stitches all the way around, so those next 6 rows will go by really quick. And here we go at the end, and then I'll have you work rows 6 through 11, and then we'll meet back here. Alright, final stitch. So this is where I like to add on the safety eyes. And where I place my eyes are 1, let's start here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So in the rows between 5 and 6, and then I like to place them so I have enough room to put the little nose right in between the eyes. So there's usually about, I would say, 4 stitches. It's kind of hard to see, but we'll go ahead and get the safety eyes in, and I'll show you how I put those in. So we'll just go ahead and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, so right in between there. So I'll put my first safety eye in, and just gonna really push that thing in there, get it all the way through. And then what I want to do is leave a gap, let me get that straightened out, for the nose. So I see the eye is right here, so I'll leave, there's a little stitch there, I'll leave 2 stitches here because that's where I'm going to put the nose, in this little triangle area, And so there'll be a stitch here, and I'll put the other eye right there. And it's all where you want to place them. That's just kind of how I do it. But let me get those safety eyes in. And we're working with a small little area here, so it can seem kind of frustrating, but once you get those safety eyes in, then the next thing we'll do is add some stuffing. So there's the back of one. And come on, eye. And there's the second one. And then what we can do, just to make it a little easier to hold, is just take some of our polyfill or whatever we're using for stuffing and just kind of add that in. You don't have to stuff it all the way. We're going to have room before it's completely closed up, but this just might make it a little easier to hold. So there we go. We've got our safety eyes in, and we've finished all the way up to row 11, and so we're going to start on row 12. Row 12 is also just single crocheting one all the way around for all 16 stitches, but we're going to do it in the back loop only. So what we'll do is we'll just put our hook right into that loop on the stitch that's farthest from us, and then we'll just crochet in each one of those all the way around. And the purpose of this is to give the bottom of the bunny a more flat base, so when you set him down, he sits a little easier. And try not to get all that stuffing in. So let me just kind of backtrack, kind of push some of that stuffing down so it's not coming up in my stitches. This stuff is wonderful, but sometimes it just kind of gets in the way. And then we'll just keep going in that back loop, just one in each one. And it's hard to think about Easter coming up when we're here in Minnesota and we just got about 10 inches of snow yesterday. So we don't look like spring, we look like the middle of winter. And I know quite a few states got hit with a lot of snow. So there we go. Oops, sometimes that back loop can be a little hard to get just by itself. And there we go, we're on our last one. And that's all 16 stitches in the back row. And from here what we're going to do is we're going to decrease in our next round. We are now on row 13, and we're going to start our first decrease round out of 3 decrease rounds, and we're going to go from 16 stitches down to 12. And I like to do the invisible decrease, and to do that I take the front loop of the first stitch, the front loop of the second stitch, I pull the yarn through those first 2 loops, and then pull again. And then what we'll do is we'll do 1 single crochet in the next stitch and 1 single crochet in the following stitch. And let me show you that one more time. So we'll do the invisible decrease by sliding our hook into the front loop of the first stitch, the front loop of the second stitch, pulling through those 2 and pulling through again, and then a single crochet in the next stitch and a single crochet in the following stitch. And that'll help us decrease from 16 single crochet down to 12. Okay, and then we're on our final decrease. and single crochet, pop out the stitch marker, and single crochet. And after this, we'll start adding a little more stuffing before our next decrease. All right, let me add a little more stuffing in. And again, we'll have a little more opportunity to add some stuffing in before our final decrease. So that way we can get them just as firm as we want. Now our goal is not to overstuff him, because we want, when we're decreasing for this bottom area, to be able to lay flat. So we want to make sure we get him nice and full, but we want to be able to know that once we close everything up, we'll be able to keep this part flat for him to be able to sit. Okay, so we've got some more stuffing in. Let's do our next decrease, going from 12 single crochet down to 8. Okay, we are on to round 14, and we're going to decrease from 12 stitches down to 8. We're going to do the invisible decrease in the first stitch, and then a single crochet in the second. And that is our pattern all the way around. Decrease, then single crochet. And this will go really quick and also give us a little bit of space, so if we want to add any more stuffing before we get down too far of a closed area, we'll have that chance to do that. So let's do our final decrease and our final single crochet for round 14, and then we'll go ahead and add some more stuffing if we want to, and then do our final decrease. So I'm going to add a little more stuffing, and because the little area is a little tight, I'm going to just use my pointy part of my scissors, which is, you know, something you got to be really careful doing, and just kind of putting a little more in there. Now, one thing to remember, once this is all closed up and it's laying flat, some of that polyfill will push up and give it more up in the top part of the body. So there is going to be more than you think in there, because as soon as that goes down, it all kind of moves up. So something to think about when you're filling up the body with stuffing or yarn or whatever you're using. Okay, for our round 15, we're going to do our final decrease, and what we're going to do is we're just going to do a decrease all the way around. So I'm going to do my invisible decrease, and that's all I'm going to do. There won't be any single crochet. And this might be a little hard, so just do as much as you can, and if it gets a little hard, don't worry, because we can always just sew that gap closed. But I'm going to try to do a total of 4, and there we go. And that's pretty much all closed up. So what I'm going to do is just take my scissors, cut a length of yarn about, let's see if I can show how long I did, about this long, and we'll just use that to sew up the remaining area. Okay, I've got my yarn needle threaded, and what I'm going to do is I'm just going to come in from the inside through that top front loop of the stitch and just go through, I think there's 4 remaining. I'll just go through each one and then pull tight, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of flatten it down with my thumb, and then to try to keep that base down flat, what I'll do is I'll just pull my yarn up through the top and use that to kind of flatten everything out. And if you've got some little areas that are still kind of bumped up, you can just bring your yarn back through and then just kind of come into the next area right next to it and just bring it back up and through, and that'll just kind of help flatten a little bit better, and then it'll be able to sit really nice. Okay, so we've got the body taken care of, and what we'll do is we'll just take our yarn and just kind of go through the body a couple times just to kind of secure everything. Cut that off, and then the next thing we're going to work on for our little bunny are the ears. And so we'll come back and then we'll complete one of the ears together, and then have you make a second one and then get those attached. We're ready to start on our first ear, and there's 7 rounds for this ear. So we're going to start off with our magic ring, and in the magic ring we're going to do 4 single crochet. And there's the 4th, and again we'll pull our tail but not too tight, and then we'll get ready to increase from 4 stitches to 6. In round 2 we're going to increase from 4 single crochet to 6, and to do this we're going to increase in the first stitch and then single crochet in the second. And we're only going to have to do this twice. Okay, and then we'll just do our last single crochet. Whoops, if I can get that through. There we go. And then we can pull it a little bit tighter. And then what we'll do is in our next round, we'll increase from 6 single crochet to 8. Okay, we're ready for our final increase, and we're going to go from 6 stitches to 8. And our pattern will be an increase in our first stitch, and then a single crochet in the next 2. And then we'll repeat that one more time. I'm going to try to incorporate my tail in here. So we've got an increase, a single crochet, and there's not a whole lot of space we're working with here, but there we go. And then there's our final single crochet. So we've got our final increase done, and then what we're going to do in rows 4 and 5 is just single crochet 1 all the way around. So we'll keep our 8 stitches. Okay, so we'll do row 4 together, which is just 1 single crochet in each stitch, and then once we're done with this one, I'll have you complete row 5, and then we'll meet back, and that'll just take you just a moment to get finished, and then we'll be on to row 6 out of our 8. Okay, and then I will meet you back here after you complete your next row. Okay, we are ready to do our only decrease round, and we're going to decrease from 8 stitches down to 6. And so what we'll do is we'll do the invisible decrease, or whichever kind of decrease you want. That's just the kind I use. And then we'll single crochet 1, and then single crochet 2, and then just repeat that pattern. An invisible decrease, a single crochet, oops, come on, stitch marker, let me redo that one. Okay, a single crochet, and then a final single crochet, and there we go. So that gets us down to 6 stitches, and then for the final 2 rows what we're going to do is we're just going to go ahead and single crochet 1 in each stitch. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And then I'll just have you do the final row. Actually, we can just go ahead and do that one together. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And then in our final stitch, we'll just do a slip stitch to fasten off. Just leave a little bit of a tail, and that, whoops, there we go, camera. And that way we'll have a tail to sew onto the top of the head. And that's everything for the first ear, and then I'll have you make a second ear, and then we'll get those attached. So how I'm doing the ears for placement is I am having them where they droop down, and that's just because once they go into the egg, it all kind of gets squished. So I'm giving these bunnies floppy ears. And then how I'm just doing it is I'm just kind of coming at an angle across the back of the head, but any way that you want to place them, if you want to do them straight, that'll work. This is just how I went ahead and did it. And I've got my first ear attached, and then I'm going to show you what I did and just give you an idea. I just kind of came in through a couple of these stitches, kind of pull through, and then what I do is I kind of come through where I'm coming through both layers, and then kind of just coming through both layers again and coming in down into the body. And that's just the easiest way I found to get the ears attached. But again, whatever kind of sewing method you want to use, that'll work. We just want to get these little guys' ears on so that they kind of have that floppy look. You can try to do the ears where they're sticking up straight, but I find that sometimes while they're in there, they kind of get bent up. But if you maybe make your ears a row shorter, they may fit just fine. So just an alternative to how you can make your bunny. Our final little body part is the tail, and that's only 3 rounds. And we'll start off with making our magic ring. And then what we're going to do is we're going to crochet 6 into our magic ring, which is definitely a nice change from 4, because that's always such a small area to work with that this makes it a little bit easier. 2, 4, 5, and 6. So what we'll do, pull our tail, and the next 2 rows are the last 2 rows. So what we're going to do is we're just going to single crochet 1 into each stitch all the way around. Whoops, I kind of messed that one up. There we go. And so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then one more time. 1, 2, 3. Kind of bend this so it's not curling too much in on itself. 4, 5, 6, and then end with a slip stitch so we can fasten off. Leave a length of tail for sewing, and then we'll get that attached. For the tail and stuffing it, I just pulled that remaining tail tight to close up the gap, and then just took the remaining yarn and stuffed it inside. And that's all the stuffing I'm going to use, but you can always add a little more if you'd like. Then for the placement, it's just the bottom center of the back. And so I've got my yarn needle all threaded, and I'm going to come in right about here and then just kind of sew it around this little area right here. And I'll show you as far as getting it started. I'm just going to place it through. I'll come up through the front loop and go down the next front loop into the body and just come up again and just come up through the front loop, down the next front loop, and then into the body, just working my way around. And that's all it takes to get the little tail added on. And so we'll just kind of just put that on really quick just to give you an idea. Oh, got caught up around the ear. And so that's all it's going to take just to get the little tail on. So not a whole lot that it takes to do that. So if you want to finish up getting your tail stitched on, then we'll go on to the final detail of putting on the nose. And then if you wanted to add like a little heart, and then if you wanted to add any coloring, I'll go through all of that with you. We've got our bunny all put together, and he's got all those little parts. So let's go ahead and put on the final details of getting his little nose and any little added decorations on. So I'm going to take a pretty bright pink yarn, go with whatever color you would like for the nose, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to come up in these 2 stitches, and I'm going to try to do this from this stitch down to here in a triangle. So we'll come up through. I've got way more yarn than I need, but we'll come up through that stitch right there, and then we'll come down and come up to the other little area. So we're just making a V. And then what I'll do is I'll come back down here, and I'm going to try to come up through the center area. And this is all easier said than done. But what that'll do is just kind of fill it in, and then I'll come back down at the bottom and just kind of try to come back up. Come on. Get through there. How tight is that stitch? There we go. And then we'll go through and then come back in. And then what I'll do is I'll just come up to one of the sides and then just go across the top and come back down the bottom. And definitely, however you would like to create your little bunny nose, you can do that. And I realize this one has the eyes way further apart than my original bunny, so I definitely misjudged the placement, but I think he's still cute. And the other alternative, if I wanted to go back through, just give him a bigger nose. But for right there, we've got the nose created. Now, I've got plenty of extra yarn left over, and then what I'll do is I will come back up, if I can, see if I can get back up in there, and I'm going to come right next to the tail and basically just make another V. See if I can get this to work. And so what I'll do is I'll come down here, come up, and this is totally optional, but there we go. Kind of, whoops, maybe not pull so tight, bring that back up, but kind of give us a little heart-shaped area. I thought that was kind of a cute little extra. And then I'll just kind of go through the body a couple times to make sure, whoops, everything's secure, and then be able to cut off this remaining. And then usually if you just kind of give your bunny a little squeeze, all of those little ends pop right back in. And just kind of give them a little formation. And there we go. This is where this bunny was completed at. And then if you'd like to add a little more color, I can show you how to do that with some of the makeup I got from the Dollar Tree. So I picked up this makeup in some I like the lighter shades. And what I do is just take a little bit, and then if you want to add some color into the ear, just to kind of give it that pink inside, you can just kind of go with some cheap makeup, which is, you know, great, and grab, you know, all these colors from the Dollar Tree, and just kind of place it in there and just kind of rub it in, and then it gives the ear just a little more touch of color. And of course this is totally optional. It looks just fine if you leave it white, but it's just something if you wanted to add a little something extra just to make it look a little more like a bunny's ear actually does. And so we'll just kind of rub that in and kind of give you a look of, doesn't take a whole lot, and it seems to stick pretty good. And the other option is if you want to give a little bit of blush right under the cheeks, you can just kind of add a little bit in there, or you can just take a little bit of yarn and just you could do a straight line right under the eyes to give some blush too. But that's how you make this little bunny. And then you can just take these eggs and just pop one right in. And I think he sits in there really well. Close him up, and you've got an addition to your Easter basket or an Easter egg hunt, just a little something different. I'm crazy about candy, but I don't need it as much as I want it. And so these are a nice alternative if you're trying to cut back on adding so much candy to an Easter basket, and giving them something a little special and handmade. And these work out so quick. You can do them in so many different colors. They'd just be easy to do and a fun little addition to anybody's Easter, or actually any time of the year. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial, and if you have any questions, just leave a question down in the comments below, and I will put my Instagram information. So if you do make any of these up, I would love to see it if you want to send me a photo of what you've made. Thank you so much, and have a great day.